I think. But it's nice not to have night meetings all the time.
Exactly.
Let's see if I can get this to load. This has been so slow
This
in
is
loading.
decaf.
It is.
All right.
Yes. One pack.
You got a coffee maker to work?
I did, yes. Yes. This
Your
time
last
it just
one.
didn't like, it was a half ounce short of the water it needed to start. Just put a little bit more in to start it. Okay. Very sensitive. Very.
Icky. All right, well, I guess I'm not going to be able to show you Riley Onkins twins because it won't load, but
They were boy and girl or two girls? You don't know either.
We were sending out an email with the photos to that.
Yeah.
And go out yet?
No,
or-
Yeah, that's
it
all.
went out. That's what I was trying to
Oh,
get to
I was
load.
thinking
but
by
it
the
wouldn't load.
names, they were girls, weren't they?
There were
I don't know,
girl
one
names,
had a
it sounded
blue-
like.
One had a blue ribbon, the other one
Oh.
a pink ribbon. That's why I thought.
Oh.
All right, I hereby call this meeting to order right now, on time. Could we have a roll call, please?
Sure. Ms. Askins?
Here.
Ms. Little?
Here.
Mr. Porterfield? Mr. Reed?
Here.
Mr. Whalen?
Here.
Chairperson Haji-Sheikh.
Here. All right, could we have an approval of the minutes?
So moved.
Jeff?
Second.
And Marge? Okay, any discussion? No discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Great, could we have an approval of the agenda?
So moved.
Marge, and a second?
Second.
Jeff?
If I can interject.
Yes, sir?
I think we can eliminate the executive session and just talk about the item in open session.
All right.
Okay.
If that's acceptable, then we will,
Unless Bart objects.
okay. In which case, I need an approval. Ah, there's Jeremy. Come in, Jeremy. Need an approval with the amendment.
Approve. So moved.
Okay,
With
so
the
moved.
amendment.
And a second?
I'll second the agenda as amended.
Okay. Now, any discussion? No further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay, motion passes. Public comments. Any of you out there in great public land want to make a comment? Okay, hearing none, we move on. Then we come to chairman's comments. Chairman's comments, the only thing I wanted to let you know about is that Fox Valley Older Adult Services received a donation from the Fair Board. I don't know if you saw
Yeah.
that in the paper, but they did, so.
Which fair board?
That's,
Sandwich.
and for how much, do we know?
I think it was, what was it, 500 or? Don't quote me.
$500?
Yeah, it's in the Daily Chronicle, I'm trying to pull it
Well,
up.
that's not going to make a lot of difference, is it?
No, but I just, they're out, we asked them to please go out and to get money from other
Fundraise,
places and fundraise. And when they do that, I've been trying to let you guys know who is trying to do what we ask them to do. Because
Yeah.
all of those agencies that come for the senior tax levy, I believe all of them are 501c3, and so they should be out asking for donations. So whenever they do, I just try and let you know that. Other than that, I hope you guys had a nice vacation with all of last month off. No? Well, you're not going to get another month off. Sorry, Maureen. And we have a lot in front of us, and so with that, I will move on to the public health tax levy referendum. Okay, if you remember from our last county board meeting,
Oh, yeah.
there was a vote. It was put forward to be on the November ballot. But as soon as that happened, there was an amendment to move it to April, to send it back to committee with a possible moving it to the April ballot. So that is what is before us tonight, is to discuss this and see what we want to do about this. So that, I will open it up to discussion.
Well, I believe Mr. Favor said something about what is the amount of money that they're going to need. Because if we do this right now, it's about $860,000, is that right?
660.
600. And
is
he
what
was
we're asking for.
somewhere-
Isn't that right?
It was $650,000,
$650.
but that was so we could argue there'd not be a tax increase, but
But
that's
he
no
was,
longer
he
available.
was
That no
talking
longer
about-
applies.
And if we could go, I don't have the minutes, but he was talking about $1 million something
Christmas
in
tree.
the meeting. So,
The wording that the lawyers came back with had to ask for the maximum amount. Now, I don't know, we have our expert here. I don't know if that still stands too, because what they were trying to do is make it no additional out of pocket.
right.
So that it would be a smooth transition for the taxpayers and it would not show a bump out of their pocket. Since that did not happen, that opportunity is gone, for better or for worse, it's gone. And so now, if we move forward to put it on the April ballot, I don't know what the lawyers will say if we still have to ask for the maximum amount. But even if we have to ask for the maximum amount, what we were going to do is put a limit on ourselves. Well, we may not even have to do that. It's up to us what we want to do. So when we originally were going to do it, they had asked for $650,000, that we limit ourselves to that. But the wording on the ballot was,
And you still have to have the same wording on the ballot.
still have to have the same wording on the ballot?
Yes.
So the
Okay.
the words in the question would not change at
Would
all?
not quite.
Okay, so they're going to ask for the
Board of
maximum.
Health, given what happened at the last board meeting, does the Board of Health have any request of this committee or what they would like to see from the board going forward?
You can join us. You can come up
Yeah,
here and be a
please.
big kid.
So we had a meeting of the Board of Health last week on Tuesday, and I provided an update as far as the series of events that occurred in the month of June as it relates to this committee and then the county board meeting as well. And the consensus of the Board of Health is still to, now that it's off the table for November, to push it forward to try to get it on the ballot in April. Due to the most recent budget that we worked on last month for fiscal year 17, we're continuing to see the same sort of trend, so there really is no change there. So part of the meeting was presenting the budget to them, and then their support, they verbalized their support to push it forward in hopes of getting it on the April ballot.
So with the wording remaining the same, would you be asking for the same amount of money, or would that change in any way?
You know, I've had a couple of conversations about the dollar amount. And at this point, we're working on, based on some suggestions from county board members, working on looking at those the trend data a little bit closer, especially the trend as it relates to the grant funding. And so looking at that and really looking to other expertise to give us some additional insight on what that might look like. Really, it's a guess. As it relates to the grant funds, I think that's the challenge, is when you try to project out too far. It's, if you look at historical data, yes, we're seeing declines in grant funding, but do we have a crystal ball to project what that's going to look like? We anticipate it going down, but at what rate, we're not, sure. So we'll be working to try to provide that information to those who are requesting it to the best of our ability.
Well, Jane was concerned about the grant money for women's infants and children, among other things.
Yes.
Is that what you're looking at, or you're looking at additional funding as well?
Well, this would be to support those programs that are not supported otherwise, or where grant funding is continuously going down. As Jane mentioned, the rate in which grants are going down seems to be on the maternal and child health grant side, and so that's what we're concerned about, is being able to sustain those programs that we currently offer, not adding programs on, but just sustaining those programs that we currently offer.
If I might clarify the amount asked for, we've now lost the opportunity to say we only want $650,000.
Correct.
Because we
That went away, for better or worse.
Right, but we can't, part of how we're going to do is we're going to pass a levy in advance of the referendum that now you won't be able to do that. So that was the way, so voters didn't have to trust you. You had already put it in place. You're going to have this lower levy. Now you won't be able to offer that at all. That even if you only want $700,000, there's no way of guaranteeing it would only be $700,000 or whatever. So you really are working with that maximum number and having
Which
to
is?
just whatever, 10 cents is about 3 times what we were asking for, about 2.1 million. Somewhere in the $2 million range, depending on what assessed value is doing. So to me, it makes it the sell a whole lot harder, and that was part of the impetus for going for the fall.
I'm looking for it on here. If it will ever load, I'll have the exact number, but
So in other
Can
words,
the board
we-
pass a resolution saying that?
You couldn't guarantee you wouldn't change your mind. That's the problem.
So we can't put it in November now because it's August 1st, or what is the reason? that we
Well,
can't?
because you have a county board resolution that kicked it off.
Yes.
So, whether there's a parliamentary procedure way to bring that back in August, I would leave that to,
the only way
to you. I think it'd be very difficult at this
the
point.
only
'Cause
way to do that would be to bring it back up, and you have to be on the prevailing side, and you would have to do it in a certain thing. Or could you start from scratch and send it forward? I'm not sure.
the board already sent it back to this committee, so I
Mm-hmm.
really don't think that's a viable option, take it back to the board.
Well, I think the intent was not to have it in August for the November ballot. I think that is clear from the county board.
Going back to my question a second ago, politically, would it be an easier sell if the county board were to say, we're going to hold this for X number of years at the 600 rather than at the full amount?
Yes, but I will put a big asterisk on, you have
You don't
to say,
have-
trust me.
Yes,
Yes.
right.
And
So we
once
could
you.
pass a resolution saying that that's what we're doing, but then we could 6 months later pass a different one
Right.
on doing
Absolutely,
it.
and you can't
Right.
commit future boards.
Right.
But which
The
would
other
still,
thing is, once, if you did that, and you did the lower $650,000 levy, once you levy that amount, then you can't go back up to the higher amount. So
Yeah.
it would take yet another referendum to do that.
okay.
So, correct me if I'm wrong, we're still waiting on some information based on an analysis of your grant funding as it currently exists.
Right, I'm trying to get some feedback on what exact information is being requested in order to be able to hopefully successfully get this on the ballot in April. To be honest with you, I haven't got a whole lot of feedback so far, but I'm hopeful that now that everyone's back after July, that I'll be getting that kind of feedback as far as what is it going to take and what information. We really are an open book, so whatever we can give, we will give. We just need to know what is that people are looking for, what are they asking for. And so we can pull that together, depending on what it is. Some things rather quickly. Other things may take a little bit more time because I am new and trying to understand everything. But going through the budget process was a really good exercise, if you will, to tell me that what's been being said is the actual reality as far as what we're dealing with. Fiscal year 17 is year 3 of a negative of dipping into that fund balance, and we are on a 3 to 5 year plan. So. As it is, I am concerned about our ability to sustain current programming.
Let me read this to you since I finally got it up. The important parts are the approximate amount of taxes expendable at most recently extended limiting rate is $21,530,492.77, and the approximate amount of taxes expendable if the proposition is approved is $23,271,878.47. For the 2016 levy year, the approximate amount of the additional expendable against property containing a single-family residence and having a fair market value at the time of the referendum of $100,000 is estimated to be $33.33. So if your house is worth $100,000, it's $33.33 is what it will say on the ballot. And all those millions of dollars are going to be on there too. That's what we're looking at.
So,
And then
$23 million and change.
For the time frame to be on the April 4th ballot, the county board would have to take action by January 17th, which is the day before your January board meeting, so your deadline is really the December county board member
Okay.
meeting, which is December 21st. So the county board, that's the drop dead date. So
And in order for us to do an effective education and awareness campaign, obviously we would like it to move, or the decision to be made about the April ballot as soon as possible, because of the fact that there's a lot of work to be done, as you can imagine, to educate the public if the county board approves for it to go on the ballot. I believe there's a lot of people who would be participating in those efforts on a volunteer basis, so I'm confident the work can get done. It's just we need to have enough time to be able to do that, and it will take a pretty large effort.
Several people have approached me and said, yes, they are willing, even with it on the April ballot, to still help out. And that's a good thing. But we have to decide if that's the direction we think we ought to go.
I think we ought to go. Again,
I'm sorry,
going
I-
to say all the same stuff I said at the board meeting, but the Board of Health has come to us and asked us to support this referendum. I think as the Health and Human Services Committee, it makes a lot of sense to me. Now, whether we wait for, I mean, part of me thinks let's wait for the information that other board members, who I'm assuming are not in this room, are asking for, and maybe take a look at putting this item on our agenda again next month, so that we can have all of that information available when we go to the full board.
Does
But
this committee meet next month?
Yes,
Oh, yeah.
I didn't see a.
first Monday of the month.
I didn't see a.
yeah,
Yeah, the only
that's
month.
that's
With-
Labor Day,
it's
so
Labor
we're
Day.
not talking about whether
That's
you're
Oh,
going
yeah.
to
Oh,
over that.
That's
That's why I
right.
mentioned it earlier.
Yeah. All right, Chris has a question while we're thinking about that.
I was not at the last county board meeting, which I regret greatly, but I was on vacation. But I don't see. I find it hard to believe that if people were, in my opinion, so short-sighted that we didn't do it, pass it last month, there's any practical chance of doing it yet this in the November election. That being the case, were you suggesting there was an alternative to if that's ruled out, there's no alternative but to get it in April, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Then
yeah. I do think, based on the conversation we had at the board meeting, I do think that there are a couple of people that would switch directions based on the fact that it was on the April ballot instead of on the November ballot.
how close was the?
That's my
Okay. Okay.
lead. Now,
Okay.
I could be totally wrong. I'm
Okay.
trying to read the minds of other people. Not usually a successful endeavor, but
And we've had one request for information who said exactly that. If we were to able to provide, that just came today, by the way, if we provide this board member with the information that's being requested, that this person would, in fact, change their vote when it comes to voting in April. And other people have said that too, without asking for additional information. And so I'm just saying that's the same feedback that we've been getting as well, is that it seems as though April, from the county board's perspective, seems to be an easier sell.
partly that's because fewer people vote in April elections, and so the information campaign is a little bit easier.
So we think it might be an easier sell on the county board, not in the county, but on the county board.
Those are two separate questions.
I agree. Okay.
Very much so.
Okay.
Keep in mind that there are other entities out there interested in raising taxes for their own reasons as well. School board's kicking around a 1% sales tax, just for one example.
And that's going to be on the November ballot, right? No,
No.
it's not?
No.
Okay.
It still could. I think they have the end of August to decide. But
Oh,
it appears to be spring, if anything.
okay. Gotcha.
I'm looking to see what the vote was, Chris.
Thank you.
If I can pull it up here on this
I'm curious.
on this mini machine.
as Misty looks for that, it seems to me, and maybe we all agree on this, and this is so obvious that it should go without saying. Our role is to do what is in the best interest of the county, and I would argue that saving or maintaining public health is in the best interest of the county. Now, certainly taxes are always an unpopular thing, and you never want to say I'm in favor of taxes, but clearly some taxes are in the best interest of the county. And there may be more than one tax change that's in the best interest of the county. But our obligation, I think, as representatives, is to offer to the county as a whole what we think is necessary to be done. So I think we should have done it in November, but now we need to do it in April.
Do we, so I have two separate questions. A, do we have the ability to table this for a month so that other board members can get information that they're
Yes,
asking
it's
for?
actually probably too early to get
I
it
would
through the
think so.
board. So
Yeah.
well, there's a cutoff at the end. I think there's you can't do it too early either.
Okay.
So
Okay, so
and I don't have that date, but
Gotcha.
12 to 10.
Ah,
12 to 10 to move it to April. There were 2 people that were missing, yourself being one of them.
Wow, I didn't know that. Well, jeez.
yeah, Chris.
Chris, don't go on vacation, Chris.
That's what we have July for.
Wait a minute. Was it to move it to April or to move it back to committee?
Well, it was to send
It
it back
was
to
to
Oh, it
committee.
was to committee
It
with
was
the
to committee.
possibility of putting it on the April ballot, is
Yeah.
the way it was worded.
Yeah.
Yes.
So what, you don't know the window that we can consider the question as a board?
No, but
Okay.
practical matter, I would think you'd do it in November or
Yeah.
December.
Okay.
But
And then the final
we
vote.
can see if you can do it in October.
The final vote, because we had another vote in there for an amendment, the very final vote was 14 to 8. So in between the first round of voting and the last, some more people changed their vote to put it on the April.
Well, but
to send it back
There's
to
some
the
different
motions
issues.
were all very
Yeah.
different. It was not,
It wasn't clarified. I don't think it was clarified correctly, but
So anyway, that'll give you a range.
The 12-10 vote was kind of the deciding one, really.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
it wasn't the final one. I agree.
No, it
but
wasn't
it was,
the final.
but it was
But
the
it's-
deciding, yeah.
Was anybody else missing?
One other
Yes, I
person.
believe
Yeah.
Jeff
Metzger, I think.
Jeff Metzger was
yes,
missing.
Jeff was going to.
Okay, so that we can go on to other things. What I'm hearing is that you guys possibly would like to put this on the agenda for next month so that we have additional information, and we can also invite some of our other county board members who have concerns to be here if we wish.
That's fine.
Yes, I would very much like to do that.
In the
Okay.
meantime,
Second.
somebody could look up
That's a-
Robert's
that's a
Rules
motion.
of Order and see if can get a parliamentary
Can't be a motion.
procedure on this.
What exactly would you be asking on that?
I'd ask them to put it on a November ballot, like we did originally.
I don't think
I
we
don't
can.
think we can.
Well, if you want us to explore, I would just ask you to vote on that. At this meeting, I want to make sure everybody,
Well,
you know,
my concern is,
I understand.
is you said we could at least say it's only going to be $680,000 at this point.
Well, 650, but yeah.
Or something.
Right.
At that point, but if it goes into November, people are going to see $23 million.
If it goes into April.
April.
Well, the wording on the question doesn't change
It's
regardless.
going
No,
to be
it
23
doesn't.
million.
Mhm.
It's just that we would have had the opportunity to limit ourselves prior to that. That limiting factor is what we can no longer do
So-
if it goes to April.
If we go to April, we won't have a chance to limit the Board of Health to only $650,000.
Correct.
Correct.
Correct. However, the discussion at the county board meeting, in my opinion, wasn't based on that. It was based on things like Lisa's new and, and who's going to vote in November versus April and things like that were in the discussion. It wasn't about whether or not we could limit ourselves, which was brought up. All right.
So do we need a motion?
Why not? Let's have a
So
motion.
I move that we table this for a month come back to it, that we invite our fellow county board members, if they have questions or concerns about the trends, the funding trends, that they come to our next meeting and we discuss it.
And you come up with a number you need.
Yeah, I want to know what
Yeah,
you guys need.
I need to know.
Okay, do we have a second for this?
Second.
Okay. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
No.
We have a no. All right, one opposed. Okay, are there any other bits of discussion on this before we go to the next item?
Is there any value to getting another report at the county board meeting?
Another report?
With the information that we're looking for?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Yeah, that's
Okay,
fine.
We're all
all right,
over
okay,
that.
never mind.
That was one of the problems that we ran into at the county board meeting that you were not at. That one of the motions was defeated because it was put out there that they wanted us to give them a report. And we weren't going to meet in July, so that would have been very difficult.
Okay.
I mean, one of the things that I'm still looking for feedback on is what are the data points that people are wanting, and so I'm working on getting those. But 2 weeks would be too soon to have that stuff available, and so I prefer to maybe have some of that stuff available at the September Health and Human Services meeting,
That's fine.
and then
Okay.
go from
Would
there.
it be beneficial to send out a letter to all the county board members explaining this? That we're looking for data points and that we're going to discuss this in September and they're welcome to come. Would that be
Yeah,
beneficial?
send out something to, it would also be helpful if you mentioned that at executive committee meeting.
There you go.
But,
Yeah.
Well, I can do that too.
you know, that would, then we get a good number here in the room.
Right. But I don't have the list of everybody on the county board.
Right, so
Somebody else would have to do that.
So we can send out a note as well, asking them whoever wants to come, let them know what the agenda item is.
Yeah. A week from Wednesday.
It would undoubtedly be helpful to in the letter that goes out, or email or announcement at the executive board meeting, that it be clear that at this point the committee is looking at April and not looking at November. Okay. Because otherwise they'll get mad at us or something.
Okay. We will discuss the potential of a September meeting when we get to old business, new business. If that's all right with you. So that we can go on to our next item, which is the sale of property. Hi, guys. Come on up. Introduce yourself, and we'll introduce ourselves. Lisa got to run around the last time she was. We all introduced ourselves during the last time she was here.
Use a fake name.
I
was going to say, I didn't think that was Lisa. I'm Bart Becker. I'm the administrator at the DeKalb County Rehab and Nursing Center.
And I'm Gary Winchell. I'm with Management Performance Associates, who manages the nursing home.
Okay, go ahead, and we'll just go around and introduce ourselves.
I'm Marge Askins.
You know me, I'm Jeff Whalen.
Steve Reed.
Chris Porterfield.
Gary Hansen.
Our scribe,
Chris Klein.
Misty.
Maureen.
Nice to meet you, Brian.
So we've acquired a property, 226 South Brown Street in Genoa. And what happened was we had a resident that owed quite a bit amount of money. The resident was residing at the facility. The administrator at the time really didn't want to have to kick the resident out and work with it, work with the resident. So basically, a deal was kind of made with the son that we would acquire the house at some point. There were some back taxes. Essentially, the county or the facility, we paid off the back taxes. The son signed over the house at some point within the last so many months, and we acquired this house. The idea is to flip the house as quick as possible, get rid of it. We're not in the real estate business. And try to alleviate some of the debt. It was like $107,000-ish of principal, and Our plan at this point is, we do have an offer on the house for $72,300. And after having paid the back taxes, we'll be paying some property taxes for the time that we owned it, after paying people to clean out the house a little bit and do a few things that we did, keep the lawn mowed, pay bills, such. We're probably going to be in about 21,000-ish. So we'll 22,000. So we'll basically be able to maybe walk away with about $50,000, give or take, not carved in stone. So that would be applied to his debt, this resident, that he has expired, but it would be applied to his debt. The remaining debt, we'll be able to turn over. It's kind of hard to explain, I guess. He applied for public aid at some point, but since he still had a house, it complicates things. So, yeah, some people understand stuff better. So what happens is, at that point when he applied for public aid, they valued the house basically at the fair market value. You know, if he's paying property taxes, they say the house is worth like 113 or 111. It was right around there. Well, we know the house wasn't worth anywhere near that. But public aid, says, well, the house worth 113, so he would have to spend down 113,000 after selling the house. So we would be able to submit that information to public aid and say, hey, the house was only worth 72. It sold for 72. We were able to get 50 out of it. So we might be able to get a little bit out of the public aid deal that way. Nothing guaranteed, but we'll try that also. So
This is somewhat unusual. Gary, you might remember years and years ago you ended up with a trailer at one point, if you remember. I don't know how many years back that was, 10 years or better.
I did remember until you said it.
Trying to forget it?
Yeah.
So the reason you haven't heard of this
We put it at Evergreen Village.
Oh, good.
And where did that, what happened to that?
So that's why you may not have heard of this before. It is kind of unusual. We have, I guess, over the last 3-4 years when we got involved, we implemented the 30, 60, 90-day policy. The state's attorney office is involved. We try to get the debt under control right away, and then do involuntary discharge if we have to. But being a county home, your goal is not to discharge somebody. It's to work with the families and work with the people. But if ultimately you have to, then you may have to look at that. In this case, as Bart said, the prior administrator, since there was a home, she's like, well, okay, we'll get the home from you. And then it did get to the point where, you know, they actually moved him out because of, you know, the family just stopped cooperating, other than with the home. So anyway, that's how we ended up with the home. It's not something we look forward to or do. Normally the families take care of all that. They take care of that through the Medicaid process. They really do. And we educate them on the process, and it works really well. This was just one of those situations. The family's just not cooperating. But again, it's our responsibility to make sure we recapture as much as we can. So even though there was a risk involved, we viewed it as minimal. You know, paying taxes, a little risky because, you know, we had like $14,000 in back taxes. What are you really going to get out of the place? Is it really going to turn? And you're going to have real estate fees and the whole bit. But it turned out that, you know, by cleaning it up, if we can net 50, you know, we viewed that as a pretty good quick flip. So that's what brings us here.
So, do you guys have any questions for them?
Is the property now is cleaned up and sellable, and you do have a legitimate offer on it?
We do, and it's cleaned up to the extent that, you know, it was power washed, the grass was mowed, and then we did have a house cleaning crew go in and clean up. There was some dog feces and all kinds of stuff throughout the house, and the bathrooms were extremely moldy. So they cleaned it up the best they could. So again, we're not in the real estate business. We didn't fix broken windows. We didn't change out the odd match doors. They actually had one room that had a gas heater in it, but it didn't have an HVAC vent. It didn't have an air conditioning vent. So, you know, people
So it's a fixer-upper.
But it was on, like, I think it was greater than 1/3 of an acre. It had a nice flat lawn, had a nice fence, had a garage out back. I mean, somebody could do something with it. I mean, it was worth taking the chance on.
Yeah.
And we're selling as is. and just get out from under it. And we do have an offer on it, and that's what we're just seeking to get out from under it and everything like that. Seeking your blessing for that.
Other questions?
So we need a motion?
At some point, I want to make sure we get all the questions answered first, and then we'll get a motion from you. Just a second, Jeff. Yes, Chris?
Why do we need a motion? I mean, no, the
Besides
question
the
is...
fact that it's on the agenda?
Yes, that's right. What's the role of the committee and the county board as opposed to
Like, are you asking, does rehab and nursing have the power to just
Yeah.
make the sale on their
They
own?
are just a sub-part of the county, so the county actually owns it. even
so
though
so
they
Yes.
control-
so you guys don't have it, we have it.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
You should realize it.
And if we want to keep the 50,000, we can keep the.
Well,
We don't have to give it back.
then the next logical question would be, does the county have a policy when it gets property of property management? And what the county should do with property to protect the investment of the, I mean, does the county send around a cleaning crew to
No.
among other things?
We typically don't own property. If we buy property, we tear it down.
Right.
So this was really done. This was done to satisfy a debt. So
Yeah.
we really,
But-
but we have the legal responsibility.
And there was some temporary insurance we were able to get and things. It wasn't as if we were exposed also to, that our 14 was exposed to the house burning down. I mean,
Right.
there was some temporary insurance put in place.
Okay.
The
For
100
practical matters.
plus $1,000, they have to pay,
Right.
no matter what. What this does is lowers that.
Right. Yeah.
And then they can go for the rest,
And then they can
hopefully.
maybe lower it
Get
even
some
more.
Yeah.
More money.
And by doing it this way, so they're really trying
Sure.
to get the best deal for the county.
Sure. I'm really thinking if we lost $15,000 of value due to the time span, and if we could have done something to protect that, to not lose that $15,000 of deterioration in the house.
Not so
It
much
doesn't sound-
deterioration,
it did.
it was back taxes that
It was
was
back
owed.
taxes.
Yeah, we only owned it for a
14.
couple
We were gonna-
months.
we were
so
gonna have to
didn't
pay
hold
back
the-
taxes.
We just
Okay.
had it a couple months. We literally, we paid the back taxes.
That was
acquired
14.
the property, had an attorney involved to make sure everything was correct.
Okay.
With the family. And then immediately got somebody in to mow the lawn, because that was the worst aspect of it.
Sure.
And then somebody came in to clean the house, and then Bart, I think somebody power washed one side of it, and then the roof had a lot of tree droppings on it, so they power washed the roof. So really just some really light minor things.
Okay.
And then the cleaning of the house. There's some cracked windows, there's all kinds of, I guess, creative electrical work.
Creative electrical work.
And plumbing to water the outside, was it, or what was it? They had something they put through their foundation, and I think they ran the hose through the foundation. They hooked the hose up to the washer down in the basement so they can water the front.
We're
So anyway,
selling it as is.
But we're selling.
It sounds like, Chris, like this has been bad for a while.
Yeah.
But, you know, we went over there, and the neighbors seemed to keep their places up. And like I said, this one, once the lawn was mowed and everything, and the house was power washed, I mean, from the outside, it looked nice. It's just you really have to gut the inside. I mean, you'd have to know what you're doing, and this person that's buying it's going to do something like that. So,
Okay.
but again, that's not
We
our
have an
business.
offer
And
on it.
Okay.
when we first talked about it, and I was talking to Gary and some other people, it's like, but we're not in the real estate business. We don't want to hang on to it for 6 months and
Right.
rehab and take a greater chance. We're going to put out 15, 20,000 because of the tax system quick work. That's enough. And we just want to get something back and lower the debt because that's the responsible thing to do. Because just to let it go and let somebody else buy the taxes, even if we could have got 10 out of it, that's still the responsible thing to do.
Yeah.
I think.
Okay.
Don't we need a sober living home?
We don't need a
It's
second
about
one.
what
We
we're
don't need,
investing
no,
in.
not another repair.
East and west, north
This
and
one sounds
south.
like it would need as much work as the
Yeah.
one we already
Okay.
have.
All right, if that's all the discussion, then we now need a motion.
So I'll move that we okay the, who has to sell this?
This county selling the house.
The county sell the property on, in Genoa at 226 South Brown Street.
for the amount.
For the amount of
72,000.
I live outside Cleveland.
72,300.
Jill was my district. Okay.
Okay,
We'll see.
Second.
and Steve seconds it. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? All right, very good.
Thanks for coming in, Joe.
Thank you.
You are excused. All right, so now we're up to old business. Is there any old business? No old business. We normally don't have old business when we've had a month off somehow.
Yeah, really.
So, new business. Now, I know one item of new business that we have is our next meeting. So, other than the next meeting, is there any other new business? Okay, so that brings us down to next month's meeting. Since we've decided we need to have next month's meeting, we need to find a date to have said meeting. September. The first Monday is Labor Day. And since we will have plenty to discuss, I really don't want to put it right before executive or right before the county board because we may have plenty to discuss, but that is also an option.
It looks like, are these typically the meetings that are the first week of the month? What's on
Yes,
this
yes.
weekly agenda?
Sure, finance a Wednesday.
Yeah,
So
we've
you-
got economic development, finance, and highway.
Okay.
I don't know if you need to be too worried about the executive and county board. I can't, you really don't need to move this forward in September.
No,
Unless
I
you're-
think it's just
But
getting people
We-
to listen to the dollar amount and
It's-
what we need to talk about.
Well, do you want to put it before?
I mean, you
On
could,
the 8th, you mean?
well, I was
The
thinking,
8th or
you have the
the
12th or
5th.
13th are open, I don't know if you guys are open, but for our meeting
12th
dates
is
here.
Monday.
12th is a Monday.
What's on the 5th?
The 5th,
That's
the 5th
Labor
is
Day.
Labor Day.
Oh, that is Labor Day. Oh.
That is Labor Day, so
I'm
the
looking
5th is
at,
out.
I'm looking at September and I see the one circle. I know why. That's Labor Day.
The
Okay.
12th? I think the
12th
12th
is
would be
good.
okay.
Yeah.
I'm good for the 12th.
12th, Steve,
12th,
12th,
sorry.
Maureen, 12th?
Yeah.
All right, do I have a motion?
I move we have our next meeting in September on September 12th, 2016.
Second.
Okay, we have Jeff with the motion and Marge with the second. Any discussion? None? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay, guys, we have moved it from the Labor Day to the 12th.
At 6:30 still.
At 6:30, same bat time, same bat place.
Did you guys modify the agenda? It says executive session.
Yes, we did.
Okay, thank you.
We just took off the executive session.
Gotcha.
It's going to be
Okay.
about the house sale.
Yeah.
Because it didn't need to be an executive session, because usually you go into executive session to buy property, not necessarily to sell property when you already have an offer. Okay.
Good.
The last thing I have is, do I have a motion for adjournment?
So moved.
Maureen, and a second? Marge and Jeff? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, stay here.
I would
What's the
not
health
guess
results?
45 minutes.
Pardon me?
What's your health results?